Hello, welcome to Channeling with Teresa. In this video, we're going to have a profound experience of hearing about the birth of Jesus from the perspective of his parents, Mary and Joseph. So I'm going to close my eyes and think about Mary, and I invite you to do the same and take a few deep breaths in and out. And just relax your whole body. Mary, you are our friend. Speak through me in this video so we may share your love and your joy and your story with all. My dear sisters and brothers, I see you all. I love you all. I acknowledge you all. When I was in the incarnation of being Mary, I was indeed already a liberated soul. It would take such a one to give birth and to mother such a child as Jesus the Christ. And I do want to tell the story as you know it. And I also want to tell the story from a higher perspective. In some regards, the story of the birth of Jesus and of his death can be quite disturbing and can create a sense of victimhood of poor me. This is not how it was at all. We were not victims. We had beautiful, deep, meaningful lives, and every minute of it was filled with joy. You may ask how I could experience joy even when my son was leaving his body on a cross. This is what awaits all of you when you become fully liberated also. Yes, I had a human side and there was sadness. And then I had the grander, larger God side that knows there is a purpose and a deep meaning for everything that happens in our lives. And I could feel his love and guidance as he held me through some trying moments in that incarnation. I'd like to begin the story as you know it. I was pregnant with Jesus, and Emperor Caesar Augustus called a census and required everyone to travel back to their homeland or the native place where their family originated from. The purpose of this was to count everybody and make them accountable to pay taxes. And it came at quite an interesting time that I had and got to travel with my husband and my soon-to-be child from Nazareth to Bethlehem. Now, this is about 90 miles. And it took us approximately 9 days on foot to make this journey. I was young. I was strong. I still am young, and I still am strong. I am the eternal child. But being pregnant, I walked a little slower. And the closer we got to Bethlehem, the more challenged my body was. I had to stop often. And at one point, I was having a hard time keeping things down. And there were lots of potty breaks and relief breaks that happened. Okay, so these things were happening to the body, but my mind was focused on God. And I knew in my heart of hearts, besides what the angels had told me, I knew that this child was going to be spectacular, vivacious, and extraordinary. And so we are walking day in and day out, and we're getting closer to Bethlehem finally. And on that last day, my water broke and I started full-on contractions. And you know what? Somehow I was just happy and I remained as calm as possible despite the unusual circumstances that I was not at home, surrounded by a mother and aunts and family members who had all had babies before and knew what they were doing and knew how to deliver. That wasn't the case, but I knew I was going to be okay because I had that faith. I had that understanding. We arrived in Bethlehem, finally, and I delayed things a bit because I could not walk quite so quickly at that point, but we made it there. Joseph will tell his side of the story, but I'll tell you he was quite worried and feeling quite responsible and quite the man and quite the father to be. He found a place for me to sit and rest as he frantically ran around the city looking for a place for us to stay and a place for me to give birth to my child. And after quite a while, he came back and he said, there is no place in the inns, but one innkeeper has offered for us to stay in his stables. We will have a roof over our head, and there will be some hay to keep us warm. And he felt very bad that this is all he could offer me. But I said, fine, let's go. It was dark at this time, and the sky was so bright with so many stars. And although I was having contractions, in between them, I was appreciating everything. I was so grateful for the beautiful sky, for the stars, for my wonderful, handsome, supportive husband who was doing his best to give me and our child what was needed. And we got near the inn, and Joseph went in and spoke with the innkeeper, and he pointed to where the stables were. And we went into the stables, and I will admit that the smell was not the best, and the stalls were not the cleanest, for it was a very busy time, and the innkeeper did not have time to muck out the stalls. But it was just fine. And Jesus gathered some hay and made a nice, soft, comfy bed for me. He was so sweet and so kind and so nervous. And I lied down in the bed that he had made me so creatively and so intentionally, with love and as much effort as he could muster. And my contractions were much closer apart. And I knew the baby was going to come at any minute. Joseph did not know how to deliver a baby, but he had delivered some animals in the past. And he knew that at least he needed a knife and a sterile knife. He had one with him, but it was very, very not sharp. And so he quickly went into the inn where people were gathered and eating and drinking. And he asked for a knife, and he did get one, and he got some alcohol. And he ran back to me, and he poured the alcohol on the knife to sterilize it. And he reached his hands out so bravely under my skirt to receive the child, the Christ child that was just emerging from my womb. It was such a beautiful, beautiful moment. I will never, ever forget it. The delight that we both had of holding our newborn child who was healthy, full of life, radiant. And my child was able to open his eyes and to look directly into mine. And my heart melted. I was so in love. I was before, but to see his face and to see his eyes, I was hooked in his love from that moment until now, still. And Joseph held his newborn baby in his arms, and the infant, it looked into his eyes also, and they fell in love. In that deep connected love that a parent has for its child, and that deep connected love that a child has for its parent. And Joseph left for a moment to go back to the inn and tell those that were there eating and drinking that his child was born. And some were very curious, and some were fathers, and they wanted to come and see the baby. And they did. And when they arrived, they all became very still and very quiet. And they sobered up, and they were in awe to witness such a beautiful sight as a child coming into the world. And we did allow everyone to hold the baby. And Jesus radiated so much peace, purity, and joy. Everyone's hearts were melted. And some ran back to the inn to gather up some blankets and shawls that they had. And they came back with some food and the blankets that we wrapped the baby in, and they wrapped Mary in blankets also. And we all ate together and celebrated in the birth of Jesus the Christ. And I would like my story to end right here at this beautiful high time. There are other parts of the story that happen later, but for right now, let's end right here. And I invite you in your mind to pick up that beautiful new baby Jesus and hold him closely to your heart and rock him left and right and back and forth as you feel his love permeate your heart and your whole being. And as your whole being gives to the child all that you are, all your love, all your blessings and all of your joy. Hold the baby. Feel your heart and feel the heart of Jesus pumping together. And this is where my story ends. Thank you for listening. And now we're going to hear from Joseph, my beloved. Oh, my friends, my story is so different than Mary's. Isn't it interesting that two people can have the same experience and then their stories about them are very different? I was not fully liberated. I was so worried, so worried from the moment we took off on that journey. I did not know what was going to happen. I did not know how Mary was going to cope. And then she proved to me that faith in God can help you overcome any obstacles. She was a trooper. She was so amazing. She calmed me down. I do wish she would have told me when her contractions and labor began, but she did not want to worry me. I did not find out until quite late when we got to Bethlehem and I had her wait. And I ran so fast and so frantically around asking everyone if they knew of any place that had a vacancy. And everybody shook their head. It's so full and it's so crowded everywhere. But I did not give up. And at the last place I went, that kind innkeeper offered his stable to us. And I ran back so fast to get Mary, and I was going to carry her to the stables. But she insisted on walking through all of it. There was such a grace and calmness about her that it soothed me and calmed me down. And when the child came out from her, and I pulled the baby, I held the baby, and I cut the umbilical cord, and I held and saw my newborn child. Too much joy, my friends. Too much joy in all the heartache and the walking and not finding a place to stay. None of it mattered because we had our extraordinary Jesus in our arms. And now we still celebrate this incredible birth, as we also want to acknowledge and celebrate the birth of all of you and the birth of the Christ consciousness that awakens in you. God bless you. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Mary. An incredible perspective of that beautiful story. And now let us move into our guided meditation. We've walked you through all of the scenes, but I want you to join Mary and Joseph in the stable and see the baby Jesus lying in the manger. It's cool. It's a beautiful starry night. There are donkeys. There are chickens running around. There are sheep. There are geese. See all the animals that got to be there and witness the birth of Christ. And you are watching from afar, but in the stable with them. And you see Mary, so radiant and full of God's grace. And you see Joseph, so proud, so in love with his new son. And you watch the other people come up to Jesus and look at him and coo him as anyone would a new baby. And Mary waves her hand to you and says, come see the baby too. And it is your turn to look down onto Jesus. See his beautiful face, his deep eyes, he is so incredible and so small and tiny. You see his form and you're awed at seeing the tiny baby, but you also know what an incredible mission he has ahead of him. And you bow to him and you give him a little tickle and a little caress. And you tell him that you love him. And you know he hears you and sends that love right back to your heart. And then you walk back to the place where you were sitting outside of the main activity, and you sit down and you begin to meditate. And let us do this now. We'll meditate silently for a few minutes. My friends, as we go about our busy lives, at this busy time of year, let us hold in our hearts the birth of Christ consciousness that is available to us at all times. Please subscribe and watch the video, A Gift from Jesus. God bless you. The Spirit in me honors the Spirit in you.